Hey, what's up, guys? In this section, we will try to tell you about introduction of psychology. Basically, psychology is a scientific study of mental process and the behavior process. By the way, this is a modern definition of psychology. At the beginning of the 19th century, the term psychology was almost unknown in the English-speaking. Today, it is a commonplace and it is using in hospital, universities and many other things. Scientific revolutions also took place in this field. The scientific revolution, which began in the 16th century and inaugurated the modern age, involved a widespread rejection of the classical and medieval past. According to Francis Bacon, science is to be sought from the height of nature, not from the darkness of antiquity. Psychology in Greek word. The word psychology derives from the Greek root meaning psyche or soul. Some of the most important Greek thinkers were Socrates, who defined the psyche and set the basic of introspection. Socrates was born in 470 BC and died in 399 BC. Socrates is considered as an early philosopher. Socrates and his followers Plato and Aristotle wrote about such topics as pleasure, pain, knowledge, motivation, and rationality. They also consider the origins of mental illness, with both Socrates and Plato focus on the psychological forces as the root of such illness. There is another great name in the field of philosophy and psychology named Plato. Plato was a pupil of Socrates and another Greek philosopher and psychologist. He was born in 427 BC and died in 347 BC. Following the Socrates tradition, Plato was also of the view that knowledge is innate and inside the mind. And other of Plato's contribution is that he described the part of personality and as intellect, will, and appetite. According to him, intellect is the ability to understand, and will is to drive something, and appetite, on the other hand, is the part of the personality that deal with the body needs. Plato also gives the concept of soul. Plato suggested that the soul had three parts: reason, passion, and appetite. Reason located in the head, passion located in the chest, and appetite located in the stomach. The function of reason is to control and direct the passion and appetite. Passion is desire to perform a certain action, and appetite, part of the soul, refers to the natural need of the body, such as hunger, thirst, and any other thing. According to Plato, some passion and appetite are satisfied in dream. The concept given by Plato is similar to what was later given by Sigmund Freud as id, ego, and superego. Aristotle was another great name in the field of philosophy and psychology. Aristotle was born in 384 BC and died in 322 BC. He was Plato's prize student, even though he disagreed with him on many points. He takes psychology to be the branch of science which investigates the soul and its properties. Aristotle's psychology studies all living beings and not only human beings. A few people might suggest that Freud is the father of psychology, but since he is perhaps one of its known figures, Others might that Aristotle is the father of psychology. Hippocrates is another great name in the field of psychology, philosophy, and especially in modern medicine. In the 15th century BC, Hippocrates, often called the father of modern medicine, separated medicine from religion, magic, and superstition. He rejected the prevailing Greek belief that the gods sent mental disturbance as punishment and insisted that such illness has natural causes and hence should be treated like other more common maladies such as cold and constipation, fever. Hippocrates classified mental disorder into three categories, namely mania, melancholia, and Fahrenheit or brain fever. Hippocrates also gives the concept of fluid of the body, namely blood, black bile, yellow bile, and flagella. An imbalance of these hormones produce disorders. If a person was sluggish and dull, the body supposedly contained a preponderance of flagella. A preponderance of black bile was the explanation for melancholia. Too much yellow bile explained irritability and anxiousness, and too much blood, changeable temperament. The highly developed introspective psychology called structuralism was first developed in Germany by Wilhelm Wundt. It is represented in its American form by the work of A.B. Titchener. Wilhelm Wundt thought that psychology needed laboratory experimentation carried out by trained observers. Wundt opposed materialism because he did not think a science of mind could be developed solely through physical investigation of the brain. He felt that the study of mind must be a science of experiment or experience. Wundt spotted the existence of a science of psychology quite independent of biology and physiology. He believed that psychology must have an experimental side. Wundt also gave the subject matter of psychology the method of the study. First, psychological laboratory. He worked on reaction time, perception, and apperception, and many other things. We have another school of thought named associationism. Although Wundt founded the first recognized psychological laboratory, associationism developed earlier as an identifiable psychological position. Many of its principles were used directly or in modified form by later schools, including Wundt and Freudian psychoanalysis. Associationism is really more a principle than a school of psychology. The first question, how do we know, was answered by associationists through the senses, and next, then where do our complex ideas come from since they are not directly sensed? Was answered, complex ideas come from the association of simple ideas. There is another great name in the field of psychology named Edward Bradford Titchener. Titchener was one of the Wundt students. He introduced and interpreted Wundt system during his career at Cornell University in New York. Titchener was solely concerned with the experimental analysis of the normal adult human mind and not with individual differences. The structural psychology of Wundt and Titchener had a threefold aim: to describe the component of consciousness in terms of basic elements, to describe the combination of the basic elements, and to explain the connection of the element of consciousness to the nervous system. Consciousness was defined as immediate experience, that is, experience as it is being experienced. From a structural point of view, psychology studies the world with reference to the experiencing person through the observational method of controlled introspection of the content of consciousness. In 1890, in 1890, Wooden developed a three-dimensional theory of feeling. Wooden thought that feeling vary along three dimensions. Teachers agreed with only one. Wooden believed in pleasant and unpleasant, and strain and relaxation, and excitement and calm. But teachers believe in only pleasant and unpleasant. Behaviorism is another important school of thought. John Brandes Waston founded behaviorism just before World War I. Behaviorism was dominated from about 1920 to about 1970. It was called second force in psychology, with its rival psychoanalysis as the first force. The third force was humanistic, phenomenological, and existential psychology, together with growing influence of cognitive psychology. Western proposed a completely objective psychology. He applied the principles and techniques of animal psychology to human beings. Psychoanalysis movement place in 20th century. Psychology is both unique and paradoxical. On the other hand, psychoanalysis is probably the most widely known for the system of psychology. Its founder, Sigmund Freud, is certainly one of the most famous persons of this century. Psychoanalysis is the most clearly aligned with the German tradition of the mind as an active, dynamic, and self-generating entity. Freud was trained in science as a physician. Freud used his new power of observation to build his system within the medical framework, basing his theory on individual case studies. Gestalt Psychology school was given its start and its individual identified by the meeting at Frankfurt in 1911 of three persons. These were Max Wertheimer, Kurt Kafka, and Wolfgang Kohler. Many others contribution to the development of the Gestalt movement, but these are the three names most usually associated. Kohler describes of insightful behavior of the chimpanzee sultan. Try to use experiment on chimpanzee. Finally, we have humanistic psychology by the Abraham Maslow. Maslow is the major theorist in the human potential movement. It was he who described this psychology as a third force in American psychology. Maslow criticized other forces, psychoanalysis and behaviorism, for their pessimistic, negative, and limited conception of a human. Maslow suggested that the things can be better if people are free to express themselves and be themselves.